Hello everyone, my name is Thomas Liquori. I'm an internet marketing analyst here at LitFX. For today's question, we're going to be discussing why isn't my site on Google? Now, there could be a number of reasons as to why your website is not showing up in the organic search result pages, and we are going to be discussing a few of the most common ones today. The first and most common reason for brand new websites on the web using a brand new domain name is just that. Your site is brand new and Google hasn't had the time yet to discover it through their crawling and indexing process. Crawling and indexing are processes which can take some time and rely on many different factors. One way to ensure your site is getting indexed and crawled in the SERPs is by submitting it to Google Search Console, formerly Google Webmaster Tools. Once you go ahead and verify that you are the rightful owner of the site, you can then go ahead and submit a sitemap which lists all of the URLs associated with your site. By submitting a sitemap to Google, you are essentially telling them, hey, come check out my site to find some great information on the topic of whatever your website is about. Once a few days or a couple of weeks go by and you're still not seeing anything in the SERPs for your website, you can go ahead and perform a site search on Google to make sure your site is being indexed properly. A site search would consist of a search query on Google, such as site:webpagefx.com. On submit, Google will load all of the pages of your site that they have indexed in the search engine ranking pages. You can identify how many pages are being indexed by looking right above the first listing, which is usually the link to Google Search Console or the home page of your website. In this instance, WebPageFX has 4,000 pages indexed in the Google search engine ranking results. If you are seeing that Google is not indexing all of the URLs of your website, the best thing to do would be to return to Google Search Console and see if there are any warnings in the sitemap section or any URL errors in the crawl section, which are visible when you first log into the website's dashboard in Google Search Console. When it comes to crawl errors, the most common crawl error you will see is the 404 HTTP status code error. Putting a 301 redirect on not found errors are best practices for telling Google this page has moved, or the next best thing associated to this page would be this URL. Once you put a 301 redirect in place, you should go ahead and mark this error as fixed in Google Search Console. Google will then attempt to recrawl the URL to see if it has been indeed fixed or not. If it has not been fixed, you can expect to see the same error again when Google discovers it on the next crawl of your site. Another common reason why your site may not be showing up on Google is because you may be blocking robots in your Robots.txt file. Making sure the user agent in your Robots.txt file is set to allow and not disallow is extremely important. If the user agent in your file is set to disallow, it's basically like telling the robots to go ahead and take a hike. Another reason why your site may not be showing up on Google could be due to a poorly configured .htaccess file. htaccess files reside in the root folder of your website, and if not configured correctly, could have infinite loops on the home page, for example, which will never let your site load properly. Meta tags can also be a culprit of why your site is not being indexed as well. Making sure you do not have no index, no follow as a robots meta tag on your site, rather that tag should be index follow. Another issue you may come across as to why your site is not being shown on Google is you are using a domain name that had life on it before you actually came along. Google may have gone ahead and put a manual action, or in other words, penalized the site for their shady practices and actually dropped them from the search engine ranking result pages. Then you come along wanting to use this domain name, thinking everything is fine, and bam, you now inherited the problem the previous owner had. One way to check if there have been any manual actions applied to your website would be looking in Google Search Console under Manual Actions under the Search Traffic tab. Another way to see if you have any potential issues would be by looking in the Search Console under Links to your site under the Search Traffic tab. Here, you can see all of the backlinks that Google sees pointing to your site, where you'll be able to identify potential harmful links. If any are found, you can go ahead and create a disavow file and submit that file over to Google. Google will also send out notifications to your email through Google Search Console, notifying you if there have been any suspicious activity on your website, which may be preventing Google from indexing it. Once you have fixed all of the problems within your website, you should then go ahead and put in a reconsideration request with Google through Google Search Console. After you submit your reconsideration request with Google, Google will then come back to crawl your website to ensure all problems within the site have been addressed. Once they have seen that, they will go ahead and remove any manual action or penalty currently that's on your website. The above points we have discussed so far are some of the most common issues you will face why your site is not being shown on Google. Ultimately, the best thing to do is to follow Google's Webmaster Tool guidelines to ensure your site gets crawled properly and indexed in the Google search result pages.